Good evening and welcome. Buenas tardes y bienvenidos. I'm Betsy Hamilton, Superintendent of the Lawndale Elementary School District. Soy Betsy Hamilton, Superintendente del Distrito Escolar de Lawndale. To listen to the town hall in Spanish, please click on the interpretation icon on your dashboard and select Spanish. Para escuchar la Asamblea Pública en Español, haga clic en el icono de interpretación en su tablero y seleccione Español. I would like to thank Mr. Jose Reyes and Mr. Daniel Tamayo for providing interpretation this evening. Thank you for joining us for this town hall. We're here with some updates and to answer questions you may have. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge that we are all living through a very challenging time. I would like to share my sympathy for anyone who has fallen ill or lost a relative or loved one to COVID. This is a webinar where you'll see myself and our assistant superintendents, Dr. Juan Santos, Mr. Travis Collier, and Dr. Gretchen Janssen. Each of us will share a brief report, and afterward, we're here to answer any questions you may have. Please enter your questions into the chat, and Dr. Santos will moderate the conversation. First, we're living in a very dynamic time, and what we share with you today may change tomorrow or even tonight. We had been preparing for the TK through second grade waiver process to bring back students, but Governor Newsom unexpectedly proposed a new plan which eliminated the TK2 application process and introduced a new process. Unfortunately, we are not eligible for this process until our county COVID case rate is less than 25 per 100,000 population. The current case rate is declining, but is still currently significantly above that threshold at 38 cases per 100,000. The governor's plan is a proposal which is still being debated in the legislature. I'd now like to introduce Dr. Gretchen Janssen.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, and good evening, families. So glad to have you here with us. So information related to Lawndale's response to this pandemic is and has been readily available on our website, including the detailed Safe, Clean, Ready plan and the most current information that we have about vaccines. Related to the vaccines, about 2 weeks ago, Dr. Hamilton sent out information to staff and parents related to the latest information we had on vaccines. Currently, we know that healthcare employees and those that are 65 years of age or older are eligible for vaccines. And we're very hopeful that the education sector will open up next, and that would help us to be able to vaccinate our staff. Unfortunately, the state of California and the local Department of Health have had some vaccine supply challenges, and that has really affected the process. We are currently in communication with a local partner, the Beach Cities Health District, and we're hopeful to develop a vaccine distribution plan for our staff with that organization. Much remains to plan here, but we're very hopeful again about this partnership and the benefits that it could have for Lawndale's employees. As you probably know, we don't currently have any information available regarding vaccination of children under the age of 16, and we remain on watch for that information. Our district also hopes to be able to offer paid time off for employee vaccinations to ensure our employees have the opportunity to access the vaccine. But we are reminded by the Department of Public Health that even after vaccinations occur, they still will expect and require people to wear masks when outside of their homes and maintain social distancing. And so with the vaccination, we're hopeful, but we still will have those precautions in place. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Santos to share some additional information.
Good evening, families. Regarding opening schools, Our primary objective at this time is to provide the very best educational program we can while ensuring the safety and health of our students, our staff, and our families during the pandemic. Just a little bit of information regarding that. Distance learning at this time is the safest program we can offer during the pandemic. This is why on January 21st, our superintendent, Dr. Hamilton, proposed to the Board of Trustees that we remain in distance learning for all, but our very highest needs students, those who may not be benefiting from our distance learning program. That shared, all of our schools were inspected by the Department of Public Health, and we were approved to reopen for these students. We will continue to work with our labor partners, the Lawndale Federation of Teachers, the Lawndale Federation of Classified Employees, Lawndale Teachers Association, to ensure reopening in a safe, that is safe for both our staff and our students. At this time, I'm going to bring up Mr. Colliard to speak more specific to the high needs and the special day class small cohorts.
Good evening, Lawndale families, parents, community members, and also our staff that may have joined us. Our special day class small cohorts will be returning, and some of our staff are not able to return to work, but they still will continue to provide distance learning to their students. To support our special day class students, teachers, and families, the Special Education Department is developing assistive videos and learning tools to support families with managing challenging behaviors that make distance learning difficult for some students. We're doing our utmost to support these students and their families while we work to keep our staff and students healthy. Because we're equity-minded, we want to bring back those students who exhibit the greatest need for in-person instruction. We plan on bringing these small number of students on Monday, March 8th. The plan is to bring teachers and staff back on March 1st for training and preparation. State preschool. Some of our preschool students have returned to school in-person instruction as far back as October 26th. They have been on full distance learning since the winter break because of some of the high infection rates and recommendations from LA County Department of Public Health. These students will return to in-person instruction on Monday, March 1st. Now I'm going to return it back to Superintendent Hamilton to give you further information.
Thank you. The decision to stay in distance learning for the majority of our staff and students can help our teachers and the Educational Services Department focus on improving the distance learning program and refining virtual instruction. Our teachers and other staff have, in a few short months, introduced innovative online learning, developed common instructional strategies, and established communication platforms with our families, such as Class Dojo. They are to be commended for their resilience and creativity, and many of these new 21st century strategies will continue to be utilized into the future, even when students return to in-person instruction. We now need to turn our attention to planning for summer for the Special Education Extended School Year program and other summer programming to support our students. And we'll continue to monitor the progress of the virus and of vaccines and testing in order to plan effectively for the fall. I'll continue to send messages each Monday to staff and parents regarding our plans. At this time, we would like to open it up to the community to see if you have questions for us, and you can enter the questions into the chat in English or Spanish, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you might have. And Dr. Santos will be monitoring the chat to see if we have any questions.
At this time, we have some, let me get to our questions from earlier. At this time, do we know what school would look like in the fall?
Sure, I can answer that. Obviously, there's a lot of information that we're waiting on, but we are planning for a hybrid schedule. We hope to have schedules decided upon through committees around spring break. And then after spring break, we hope to send a survey out to parents to get a choice of being in a hybrid or to remain in distance learning.
Okay. Question coming in. Are we doing an in-person class this summer for our special day classes?
If a student is eligible for what we call ESY, extended school year, they will receive an invitation to be a part of the ESY program. And that will be in person, and will also offer a hybrid selection.
All right. Because of the pandemic, many of our fifth graders are not in person. What resources are available to help them transition to middle school in the fall?
Well, one of the plans that's in the future is to develop an orientation, sort of an onboarding before they return to campus in the fall. But in addition to that, we will be continue to develop our distance learning instruction and be able to prepare some instruction and possibly tutoring for students to utilize over the summer and continue to learn heading into the fall.
Okay. Will the TK programs or students be back in March, or maybe be specific, what is coming back in March?
Why don't I, since the parent asked about TK, I'll address that.
Mm-hmm.
So parents may know that we were planning to open TK through second grade through a waiver process. We had to file an application with the Department of Public Health. But while we were preparing that application, we were nearly complete. The last step was to meet with a group of parents and get their input. While we were doing that, the governor of California put out a plan that eliminated the possibility of bringing back the TK2 students. The reason some districts have that open is because they were able to get their waiver before we did. We applied, and the governor's plan said, you may not open for TK2 because the case rates of COVID in our county are too high, and they have to go down below 25 cases per 100,000 population. So that is why TK is, we do not have plan for TK to open as a whole grade, but we can bring back small groups of very high needs students. So in order to do that, we look at which students are not able to access the programs that we offer in distance learning. And I don't know, Mr. Collier, do you want to say anything more about what high needs students we might be able to bring back on campus, or do you want to just focus on the special day class students?
I would just leave it for now, just a special day class. That is generally our autism and our life skills classes. And we also have our early start program, a deaf of hard of hearing, and learning handicap.
Thank you. Just to follow up to that, you mentioned our special ed students who will be returning back March 8th, or those students that have selected to come back. Can you describe how the special ed class will be? Will they be in classrooms, outside, full day, half day, synchronous, asynchronous?
Sure. So for right now, from 9 to 11:50, our students are on Zoom in a synchronous, what we call synchronous instruction. And then in the afternoon, they are to participate in asynchronous instruction, which they do their work, or they may even report to a small group setting. So when they come onto campus during that synchronous time, now they will be in a class with their teacher, and they will also be in there with support from instructional assistants. They will have their instruction in person from the from the teacher, but also move to stations where they may be working with the IA via a small group, and then they will also, it'll be simultaneous in that kids are at home are receiving instruction, kids are in the classroom are receiving instruction and getting support from the teacher in the IA, and they will move around in stations, but the kids who are on site will remain in classroom until the 11:50, and then they will transition home and then do their asynchronous work at home.
How will we know if our child will be part of the kids that are going back? Will it be all grades or only the lower grades?
I would like to answer a part of that, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Collier. So if it may be that some parents have not participated in a town hall before or read the notices that have been sent out. Every Monday, I send out a message to parents, and I encourage you to read those messages. As I said, in the fall, the only group that we could have brought back was TK through 2nd grade. But while we were planning to apply for a waiver to bring back TK through 2nd grade, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, made a decision that we could not do that because the case rates of COVID were too high in Los Angeles County. And so we cannot get a TK2 waiver, and we cannot bring other grade levels as a whole grade level, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th. We cannot bring those students back on as entire grade levels. We can only bring back small cohorts of very high needs students, such as the special day class students. If you have a student in special day class, you would know that. And if you don't know that, you can certainly speak to your principal or talk to your teacher. But if your child is not in a special day class, we don't have time, we don't have a plan for them to be on campus yet. We have brought students back on campus for assessments, but that's individually or in very small groups, very small numbers of students. And because we were not able to get the waiver because of the governor's decision, I took a proposal to our board of trustees, that's the school board, to recommend that for most of our classes, we remain in distance learning and work on improving our distance learning program, because the case rates were so high, the COVID case rates were so high that it didn't look like we could open up. The last thing is that we're focusing on our summer programs, and there will be special education summer program and other programs that will be for other students. So I'll turn that over to Mr. Collier to see if he has any further information yet about the summer.
Sure. So in terms of, just like Dr. Hamilton said, right now we're focusing on the special day students with the high needs, because that's what we're allowed to bring back according to the guidelines. When we have our general ed students in distance learning to the remainder of the school year, in the summer, we have the SDC program for our students who are in ESY, extended school year, what it's officially called. But we also are now beginning to develop what summer programs we may offer for different grades. I cannot say right now what grades will be targeted, but we will be trying to establish either work through a tutoring company like Sylvan, or working with the teacher in a small group around skills that are needed for the students, whether it's reading comprehension or maybe math. And those will probably be 2 to 3 week short classes. We've had a partnership with UCLA in which we offered a week of Spanish or Mandarin, and we plan to also do those type of programs. But as soon as we know, we will send out a survey to see what program students will want to be a part of and sign up for that. And I would just reiterate, if your child, is in a special day class, we have surveyed all the parents in those classes to ask if you wanted to stay on distance learning or come in at a hybrid. So if you are in those programs and you did not receive a survey, we did it way back in November, and we did it also recently. If you are not receiving those surveys, please give contact your teacher or your principal and make sure we have the right contact information. But I believe we had a very high rate of contacting the parents and having conversations about what the choice was for their child.
Before we bring any students back on campus, we will have surveys going out because we need to know if we're providing some students on campus at school and some students home. We need to know how many. Some parents do not want their children to come back to school, and some do. So we will always survey parents first. And there was a question about TK summer classes online. We don't have the information about that right now, so we'll have to get back to you on that. We'll probably have another town hall or look for the Monday communications that I send out every Monday.
So the next question deals with the hybrid program. You said the plan for the fall is hybrid. Do you mean for all grade levels, or is it specific grades and or kids?
The plan for the fall is for all grade levels, for all students and parents to make a choice to be in a hybrid program or in a distance learning, and we provide those programs for all students.
And I understand that there's a group meeting regarding this hybrid system. Do we know what the hours will look like? Will the students be on campus, off campus? Will the Zoom continue? Will there be an increase in instruction? I know that's a lot of different information, but any information would be helpful.
Sure. I think if we harken back to the spring of last year, and we had talked about different hybrid formats. And so, as Dr. Hamilton is saying, when we know how many students are coming on campus, how many students may be staying at home, we'll set up a program in which it's hybrid, in which some days a student will be on campus and some days they will be at home learning through distance learning through the Zoom platform. And so that can mean anything from a student comes in 2 days a week to 4 days a week. And it also can mean it might be an AM and a PM schedule. We have what we call an instructional planning committee. They will work with my staff and other administrators and teachers to design the best possible schedule that we can for students, and we will put that together and send it out to parents to make those choices, what they feel is best for their student.
Okay, the question came in. Oh, go ahead.
Dr. Santos, could you share with the parents briefly that Dr. Santos is the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, and he is involved ongoing in negotiations with our labor unions that represent our employees. Could you just share with the parents what the process is when we are bringing staff back on campus, that we need to speak with them about the impact of our decisions?
Yes, when we discuss bringing back students, most often when there is a change in a contractual obligation, or when there is a change in work status or the conditions, that could be negotiated. So we have to bring this up to our labor groups to discuss, and we're discussing at this moment returning back and the safety protocols, which at this moment are very strong. I'm going to actually have Dr. Janssen share a little bit about our safety protocols that we have in place and some plans that we have that we've recently signed, and information regarding even vaccinations. Dr. Janssen?
Sure. So as I shared in my report, we have developed a plan called the Safe, Clean, Ready Plan, and I believe Marina recently just added that into the chat, so you can access it there if you've not yet had a chance to see it. It was developed starting back in the summer, largely through the work of Dr. Danielle Urrutia, who is our Safety and Risk Management Coordinator. And it's constantly evolving as the guidance that we receive from the Department of Public Health adjusts. So what we'll be adding there will be some information related to vaccines. And again, as we get that information, we'll update it. We're very hopeful that we'll see the education sector be next in line for vaccinations. And we continue to watch for that. In a call that we had today with Dr. Barbara Ferrer from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, she mentioned that she'll give us more information next Thursday related to vaccinations for people in the education sector. So we're looking forward to getting that information. And then as parents, I'm sure you're interested in finding out more about when children may be able to access the vaccine. And we have no information about that right now. Right now, the vaccination is only available to individuals age 16 and older. But certainly as that information comes to us, we'll get it out to families.
This question came in, could we speak a little bit in terms of our special education students who will have physical education classes or classes in general when they come back, and if they're going to be required to wear their masks even while they're exercising or just in class in general?
Well, in our current return, we're not allowed to have physical education outside. What the students who have adaptive PE, they will continue to receive those minutes, either in a small setting or one-on-one, or it may be through the computer. I do know that, depending on where we are in terms of the safety for the County Department of Public Health, it'll allow us to possibly open for PE one day, but there's a lot of restrictions around students play and outside and safety concerns, sorry.
Okay. One question is, are we considering having one teacher online and kids and in person for kids simultaneously, maybe dividing the attention to both audiences in one session?
That is one of the format of how we're bringing back the special day class students. There's simultaneous instruction. As we continue to work through plans for next year, that is a possibility for our general education, but that is definitely one of the possibilities. But we are using that format when we return in March with our special day class students.
I did want to just touch bases. There was a question regarding the Realizing Amazing Potential, our before and after school program that we have. And they asked, will it be available in person or virtual for the fall? I believe that's this summer as well. Well, in both cases, the Realizing Amazing program or a potential program, RAP, will be what we're allowed to be. So I guess I hate to say it, as right now it is all virtual. It is completely free at this time. And we encourage our parents to please take advantage of this program. They have excellent programming. And really, it's just an opportunity for kids to get some social emotional opportunities to just interact with kids. So I wanted to share that to everybody out there, that the program is free. Contact your principal or go online or our website, and you can get in touch with them and get your son or daughter signed up ASAP. A question is regarding the plan for the fall and hybrid. Obviously, we'll be communicating and to all parents out there, but do you have any best practices? Will best practices be communicated to our families and students to help everyone prepare for this hybrid model?
Yes, similar to what we did this year, we created a parent distance learning handbook. And once we are solid on what we are doing as a district and have our plans and schedules in place, and we begin to send out surveys, we would instruct through Family University, and we'll post on our website different materials for parents to access. To give you an example, our special day a department, special education department, which we mentioned earlier, is providing video instruction, short videos around behavior. So we will do something very similar to support parents in instructing their students in the hybrid program.
And then if I can, go ahead.
I would just add that yesterday, Mr. Collier and the Director of Teaching and Learning, Leti Varela, have been working very hard with our principals, and they've been working with their teachers for many months to both improve distance learning and also our communication with parents. And there are a lot of practices that have been put in place that we hope to carry forward, that we will carry forward. And these best practices that were mentioned by the person who entered their question in the chat, these best practices were discussed yesterday in a almost 4-hour meeting with principals. So today I spoke with the Director of Teaching and Learning, Leti Varela, and the next steps are to take those best practices and share them also with, to review them and make recommendations about what we're going to move forward with, and then also to communicate those to parents. This year, one of the great things that we had to start the year was an onboarding or orientation process. And we felt that was really great to get parents oriented to the new platforms, communication platforms, and so on. We'll need to do that again. And so we'll have to be looking at when and how we'll do that to make sure that parents are aware of what these are.
And then I wanted to just add a couple of pieces. I just placed in the chat 2 of our resources for social emotional learning, as well as Family University's websites or their addresses for you to check out the resources available. I know there have been videos and additional workshops that will be coming very soon, plus recordings of past ones on everything from how to work with your student during this time where they have too much screen time to how to just work with your students to comfort them. So please take a look at that. There was a comment regarding, is our plan to bring all special ed students regardless of grade point average? Is there just a little bit more? Maybe this person came a little late or wants to know specific. Just want to address that. Is that having to do with the grade point average? Will there be more open slots? What about general ed kids that are failing?
So for the students who are coming back to campus is based upon the needs that are established in their goals that are established in their individual education plan, which we call IEP, you probably commonly heard of. And also it's based upon parent choice. We ask each parent if they want their child to return to the campus. So it's based upon need. Even when we're thinking about bringing back students who are highly disengaged or whatever the category might be, we look at the needs of the students. We do not consider GPA.
Thank you very much. You know, there's been talk out there, Dr. Hamilton, regarding kids should be in school as soon as possible. With the Center for Disease and Control, or the CDC and the American Pediatric Society agree. The decision for Lawndale that we made. Could you go into more detail or explain ourselves?
Yes, we had hoped and we had planned to bring back our TK, our transitional kindergarten, first grade and second grade back. We went through extensive planning. We worked with our labor unions, and I met with a group of parents to discuss this, and we were moving forward with that. And as I mentioned earlier, we were prevented from doing so when Governor Newsom eliminated that option for us. And so at this point, because of the case rate, and you don't have to agree with it, or we can agree or disagree with it, but currently we are not permitted to open with large grade levels of students until the case rate is below 25 per 100,000 population. We do follow, so the CDC is an organization that sets guidelines for what is safe nationally. And then each state and each county also has departments of public health. So there's a California Department of Public Health, and there's a Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. Even within Los Angeles County, there are two cities that have their own departments of public health. And the smaller entities, a county can make requirements that are more restrictive than a state, for example. In our situation, the governor has said that until the case rate is down in Los Angeles County, we cannot open to full grade levels if we weren't already open before. And so the highest need students, and that's not just determined by grades, but by every teacher, is tracking the attendance of students, their presence in the Zoom or synchronous learning time, as well as their participation in the asynchronous learning when they're not on Zoom. And a variety of information is gathered about each student to determine which students are making progress. And we have analyzed language arts and math data for all of our students to determine who is at risk or at high needs, very high needs students. And on a case-by-case basis, we'll determine which students need to be brought onto campus because they're not making progress. But the ones that are coming on campus are state preschool, which was already on campus beginning October 26th. And we had planned to bring our special day class back on campus, but we had a 3-week stay-at-home order from the Department of Public Health. Now that is over, and so now the special day class is set to return in March.
You know what, I just want to emphasize, because people's, word of mouth advertising, it's definitely something, but there was a parent that did share that RAP has always been an awesome after school program, and that it has she's kept her kids in RAP, and the kids look forward to the virtual classes. So shameless plug for RAP, but I think it's an opportunity for everybody out there to take advantage of this opportunity and just get your kids active, whether physical education, whether other classes may not feel safe. This is a safe space for students to participate and to really, for what times are now, it's the best that could happen right now at this moment. Another question came in regarding our English learners. Are English learners considered special education students that will come back to school here in March? Thoughts?
Well, English learners, that's a separate designation, but you do have some students who qualified as an English learner and in a special day class. So if they do have that designation, they will be in the classes. I'm not sure of the percentage of our English learners that are coming back that are also SDC and will be in those classes. But that is a separate designation. So the English learners just as a group are not being brought on campus at this time.
I would just add that special education students have a learning disability or a health impairment that affects their learning. That is not the case for English learners. English learners are designated, so if their primary language is a language other than English, or the first language that they spoke in their home was a language other than English, that's a very different thing. But just to that point, we also have extensively assessed how our English learner students are doing. Are they making progress in English to the level that we would expect? And that's a very important, we're holding ourselves accountable for that, and our teachers and our students. So that's being monitored closely by our Department of Special Projects that oversees English learner programs.
All right, this question is focused on vaccines and vaccination. Will vaccines be required for all staff and and students upon return to campuses?
I will be happy to take that one. I'll give Mr. Collier and Dr. Hamilton a quick respite. So we're still analyzing legal guidance related to vaccinations. We did receive some information that we're going to explore today related to staff requirements for vaccinations. And because right now there are no vaccines available to any children under the age of 16, we really have no information related to student vaccinations at this time. And to our knowledge, it would have to be a decision made by the legislature to mandate whether or not students have to be vaccinated before coming to school. That couldn't be a local decision. The Lawndale Elementary School District could not make that decision. That would have to be made by our elected representatives in Sacramento. But we are exploring information around staff vaccinations, and we'll get that out as soon as we have clarification on that and legal guidance related to staff vaccinations.
Mm-hmm. And just a question regarding our, just data in general. Where do we get our information that accounts for our recommendations daily, or just our actions daily?
All of our decisions are based on data coming from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health.
Go ahead.
I want to reassure parents that every Thursday morning, all of the people that you see here on the screen, Dr. Santos, Mr. Collier, Dr. Janssen, and myself, as well as Dr. Daniel Urrutia, who's our safety and risk coordinator, we all participate in about an hour-long phone call with Dr. Barbara Ferrer, who is the director of the Department of Public Health. She has a phone conference with all school districts in Los Angeles County, the superintendents and assistant superintendents, and that call gives us a weekly update on what the Department of Public Health is requiring. And as Dr. Janssen said, we heard today, in addition to that, from a lawyer, a legal expert, regarding the potential for requiring vaccines. We don't have complete information yet, but we had a discussion of it, and Dr. Ferrer also said that she would try to focus on that with us next week because she knows how important it is.
So we have a question regarding decision-making in general. Do the teachers' votes to go back to campus make up the larger percent of the decision-making to go back into school, teaching for this next school year, if the governor gives the go-ahead for us to start the new school year?
I'll answer part of that, and I think Dr. Santos could also answer. The short answer is no, teachers do not vote. Teachers are employees, and they work for the school district. Because of the pandemic, almost all teachers have been working from doing distance learning from their home or sometimes from their classroom, but it's distance learning. And they don't vote about whether to come back onto campus. However, because it's a pandemic and this is a new virus that we don't have the ability, I can't think of the right word. We don't have resistance to this virus. Many parents many teachers and teachers unions and other employee unions are in favor of waiting until we have vaccines for all teachers before they come back. But no, teachers do not vote whether to come back. If we decide that it's safe to bring teachers and students back on campus, as we have with state preschool and our special day class students, then we will have those conversations with those teachers and inform them that it's time to come back to in-person instruction. And then we need to follow all of the health protocols. And without going into a lot of detail, we can't have as many students in each classroom. We can only have up to 14 students in a classroom, and even less if there are other adults in the classroom, but no more than 14. And we have to make sure that we have students socially distanced. So those are some of the factors in bringing students back on campus.
Dr. Janssen, did you want to share a little bit as well as to some of the factors that comes up with the decision to return back?
Sure, and I think the question was focusing on our teachers' perspective on coming back. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the MOU development. But as I shared earlier in a question, we follow the data from the Department of Public Health in making our decisions. And as Dr. Hamilton has shared right now, we are not able to open to large groups of students. But perhaps you can talk a little bit about development of memoranda of understanding with our labor groups.
Yes, what we do, or what I do primarily, is I work with our presidents of each of our labor organizations, the LTA, Lawndale Teachers Association, and the Lawndale Federation of Classified Employees, LFCE. And separately, we discuss, we discuss the pandemic. We review the information and we make decisions on how to return safely. Oftentimes it is, it's ultimately our recommendation and the board makes the final decision. However, it's important we make our decisions based on an agreed upon agreement. It's an agreement between all groups that, not only is it just safe to come back, but how do we manage through it? And it's a difficult situation because remember, we're all invested in education. We're all love our students and in communication from everyone from the custodian to instructional assistants to our teachers, to our food services who are out there daily providing meals. We want to see kids, but at the same time, we have to be safe. And unfortunately, this pandemic is affecting communities of need, communities of color, community where poverty, is impacting. It's affecting all of us more so than others. So we made the best decision, and ultimately we stand by our decision as a group. The next question is, what happened, or will there be another survey about returning to school for parents?
Well, I think, we did a survey for our special day class students. We did that twice. I know we sent out a survey for parents in transitional kindergarten through second grade. And then we had to put a halt to that because of the, Governor Newsom's new regulations. We will put out a survey post spring break to ask parents about returning to hybrid or distance learning in the fall. So I think those are the surveys that we have done. We will do the next survey we will do will be forthcoming in the spring to ask you about the fall so that we can prepare for students returning in August at that time.
All right. There's a great question here regarding just budget and funding. So I'm going to direct this to you, Dr. Janssen. Could you comment how you would allocate the funds, or actually it goes to, to all of you, how you would allocate the funds you receive, or we receive rather, if the proposed COVID budget or package gets through Congress and signed by the president? I guess that's a lot of what ifs, but it's okay. Let's, if this happens, what do we envision? Tell me what we're thinking here, Dr. Janssen.
So yeah, those dollars wouldn't flow directly to schools. Those dollars would flow into our state, and then our state would make decisions about how many of those dollars or how much of those dollars would be allocated down to schools. So the president, although he might want to, won't send it directly to us. And what we would do is use data in making our decisions. And I see that this question comes from Mr. Pena, who is a longstanding member of our district LCAP Stakeholder Advisory Committee. And he understands probably better than most parents how our district really digs into data and uses an equity-based model in making decisions about how to allocate our funds. And these funds would go through a similar process. We would take a really good look at what areas of need our students have, and then what research-based methods might best support our students, and allocate the dollars in that way. I think Lawndale is very deliberate in the use of all of their dollars, and we don't always jump at the next shiny package and the next thing that looks great. We really dig into things and we analyze them and make sure that they're going to do the best for our students and support our students. I'm sure that every person on this panel would nod their head and agree that that we receive hundreds upon hundreds of emails every day from vendors telling us that they could sell us the next great thing. And I want you to feel reassured that we are very prudent in using our dollars in ways that are best for our students and that use an equity lens. As Dr. Hamilton has reminded us, we need an equity lens, and we need evidence that our students need those things. So we'll be very deliberate in that process. And thank you for that question.
Dr. Hamilton, anything to add to that?
Well,
the equity portion, especially if you wanted to just, why, the emphasis on equity.
Well, we have had a long-standing inequities in our society around education. We have economic inequities in our society. So some people have a very, very high income, are very wealthy, and some people have a low income, or many people have lost their jobs. And in our community, that's the case. There are a lot of people who've lost their employment. We have about 85% of our families live at the federal government poverty line, so they're living in poverty. And this is why we serve thousands and thousands of meals each week to our families. In addition to that, during the pandemic, COVID has affected different communities in very different ways. For example, every week I meet with 12 superintendents from Inglewood, Lenox, Hawthorne, here in Lawndale, Torrance, and all of the beach communities like Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, and El Segundo. And all of those superintendents, we get together every Thursday morning at 7:30. And part of the reason some of those communities were able to open up more quickly is because they are not suffering as much with COVID. We have had many of our staff and our parents and families affected directly by COVID, and some have lost their lives. And that's a very important consideration when we think about opening schools and how quickly and with how many students on campus. So for example, we've been talking over and over about the case rate. So how many cases of COVID are there per 100,000 people in the population? And that LA County as a whole, which has 80 school districts, 80, LA County as a whole needs to get below 25 cases per 100,000. Right now, Manhattan Beach is at 223 cases per 100,000. El Segundo is at 291 cases per 100,000. And Lawndale is at 797 cases per 100,000. So we all want, everyone you're looking at on this screen, we all want our students back at school. All of our teachers want our students back at school. We miss the students. We know they need to be on campus. We're not allowed to have them on campus except for very specific circumstances right now, the high needs students. And so we'll just continue to follow what the Department of Public Health guidelines are, because we must. Our schools are safe, clean, and ready. We had the Department of Public Health come inspect our schools, and we've been approved to open. We have to wait until the COVID cases come down far enough, and then we can look at that. And then, so that's why we're really focusing on planning for the summer and for the fall.
So speaking of which, I'm just sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Hamilton, but assuming numbers do go down within the next 1 to 2 months, as the question here reads, would we consider K and second be able to return in-person learning?
I think we would need to, we meet, the 4 of us meet very frequently, at least 2 times a week, at least 6 hours a week. And we discuss what the news is every day. So we would have to take a look at that. I took a recommendation to the school board that we remain in distance learning for the majority of our students, because we lost the ability to get the TK2 waiver. And that was not our doing, that was the governor's doing. And it was based on the case rate. However, it was also timing, because if you had already been able to get in and open, and some people already had their waivers submitted and they were not able to open because we had a big surge in COVID. So, and that's why we had the stay-at-home order for 3 weeks from the Department of Public Health in January. So what we are continuously doing is looking at the data, as Dr. Janssen has said repeatedly. We just look at the data every day. I look at it every day, sometimes twice a day, to see if the cases are coming down, and we'll make a decision how to proceed from there.
Yeah. Just a couple comments out there, but we totally understand in terms of the analysis out there of schools are showing that they're not super spreaders or COVID spreaders to those schools that have not been back. But we also realize, though, that there's some information regarding other types of mutations of COVID. So, you know, it's just tough. Any thoughts on just what information you've seen about schools that have been currently going on? Yes. Yes.
I mean, we do know, and the CDC says, and we concur with the science, that we're not scientists, the four of us are not scientists, but we know that the epidemiologists and all the scientists that have been analyzing this virus and the variants of the virus, that the way that the virus is transmitted is through mucus and saliva that comes out of a person's nose or mouth when they cough or sneeze, and that's how the virus is transmitted. We know that people with a very strong immune system, and children in particular, may carry the virus. They may be exposed to the virus and then get the virus. They may have the virus in their system, but not show any symptoms. And so that's a good thing, because it's when a person has the symptoms that they transmit the virus. If you have a cold, let's say just a regular old cold, and you never sneeze or cough, you are not going to transmit the cold as much as if you're coughing and sneezing a lot. That's how these viruses get transmitted. So while it is true that children are thought to not be responsible for much of the transmission, they can transmit, but because they are mostly asymptomatic, they are not the people that are spreading COVID the most. The people that are spreading COVID are adults that do not wear a mask or get too close to other people, or come to work when they're not feeling well. We know that sometimes, you know, up to 3 days, a person can be having COVID for several days before they show symptoms. And so sometimes people are spreading the virus without knowing it. So what we really need to focus on is everyone doing their part to, you know, stay with your family, try not to go travel or affiliate with people outside of your household. And, you know, many of our families that have jobs must go to their jobs, which we completely understand. We're at work right now. But we just want to make sure that people practice those safe practices of wearing a mask and washing your hands and staying distant from other people, and only affiliating with people in your household as much as you can.
Mr. Collier, this question came in. It looks like it's directed to you or to your programs. You know, how can we help out our students at home? I mean, is there any you know, programs or things we should be doing?
Well, I mean, we have the system, the curriculum that we're using. We use the various platforms that engage students in learning. One thing that we're very proud of is that it oftentimes through different things like Seesaw or Pear Deck, students can interact with the teacher in real time. Many students who normally would not interact with students because of just, they may be shy, not wanting to, be embarrassed in front of others. They are feeling very comfortable being able to ask their teacher consistently about questions that they may have. And so they're able to interact, and many students are doing very well in this platform. But I would say, as we continue to work with our teacher leaders, our teachers, the structure and having students on a schedule, we have 99% of our students come to the Zoom sessions, and they are participating in Synchronous. I mean, not always as engaged they are. Where we have the struggles when lunch comes, computers go off, and then they have the time in which they're designated to do their work in the asynchronous time. And so what I found out this week, some students will submit blank forms, and Google Classroom will read that as a turned into an assignment. So the parent may see it as it's turned in, but in actuality, they turn it in a blank form. So I would say, structure and schedule with their students, and to check their work, and to and ask questions. And I'll make sure that we have a kind of a checklist and some guides to what parents can do as they work with their students. And again, using the example of what our special education department is doing is releasing some videos so that parents who have students who get agitated or get frustrated with trying to maintain focus on the Zoom session, some ways to redirect them and also to motivate them, and to give them habits and ways to do better with distance learning. We are continuing to learn as we go to conferences, and we seek out our colleagues to figure out what are the best ways to have students achieve in distance learning. I am very proud of that. I think we have gotten one communication system to parents. We've had narrowed it down to some key platforms that students are using, and it's consistent across the whole district. I think we'll continue to get better, and we will seek out ways from other districts to see what's working to try to continue to improve distance learning. But I would go back to the schedule, the structure, and having those conversations because you can check to see if students are staying and up to pace. And I would definitely say stay in communication with your teacher. That parent, teacher, student relationship is very key.
I do see here that a parent did comment about our family university and the virtual workshops. I'll go ahead and place those again in the chat because they're saying that our kids just need some more time with them, and they didn't really know how to do that. So I will throw out the workshop again. A family came out, for those people that want more time, why not increase the Zoom teaching sessions? Is there any thoughts about doing that?
Dr. Santos, I think you might be able to address what would need to happen if we were going to do that.
Yeah, in this case, what you're doing is you're affecting the day by increasing the amount of instructional time, and as a result, that is something that is negotiated, something that we would have to bring to the teachers union and have a conversation with them. Please know when I share this information, it's not to say that they are, but they are against it. Please, by all means, know it's working out the logistics. It's working out that if we are going to do something and it's specific to what Dr. Janssen has said, we want to make sure it's research-based. We want to make sure that it's relevant. We want to make sure that it's something that can offer an opportunity for the students to grow, as opposed to just taking up more time online. So that's important. And all of us realize the importance of schooling. For some of us out there who grew up poor, this was our way out. And it's very important for us to know that this is an opportunity that we want to give to students because we know how much we value it. Someone asked this next question: is anything being discussed for middle school students? That's a very good question, 6 through 8, to better allow them to meet their teachers in advance for the following school year, since they've had several teachers compared to elementary students. Relationships building is critical for this student's success, and especially for this age. Is there anything being done 6 through 8 wise, or any ideas that you could share or things of that nature?
Sure. So when we coming back prior to the school year, we are looking for orientation specifically for students who have not been on the campus in their their school career. So if you were a sixth grader, you've never been on the middle school campus. So those who are going to seventh grade, they will be a focus, and then those sixth graders will be a focus because it'll be the first time they'll be in the brick and mortar of Adams or Rogers Middle School. Also for our TK students, our kindergarten students, and our first graders, it'll be their first time on campus. So there'll be orientation and onboarding sessions to get them familiar with their teacher and the campus and the structures and the programs. Middle school, if parents may not have known, normally our students take 7 classes, and under the distance learning, we had cut it down to 6 classes. So they would not have as many teachers and have as many classes. I will say when we started this schedule, it was with the thought of it being temporary. We did not predict that this is going to be year-long schedule. So as we look into the fall, we will look into building more time into the schedule. But I will say we have had extensive meetings around how do we solve and get students to be more successful. And a lot of it is being put in place that during that asynchronous time, teachers are meeting with small groups of students to give them added instruction and time and guidance around completing their work. And so, all those are factors, all those are discussions. And, obviously, as we learn more, we know more, and we'll continue to improve in how we support students.
And I can't agree with you more, Mr. Gamboa. That was a question for you, and I do want to recognize this question aloud, as you mentioned, especially middle school students 6 through 8. To me, it's getting as many relationships as they can with a lot of trusting adults. And so I cannot encourage or share enough about the RAP program. I know our RAP program is specific to the site, and so you'll have a lot of young adults who end up becoming motivational. I mean, you understand that as a former principal, where you understood that someone's going to make a connection with kids. So I do totally agree with you 100%. We will find ways to connect our kids. At this time, I would say, suggest RAP. And RAP is doing lots of programs to assist students, not only as social emotional, but they are working on the academic as well, even though they kind of sneak it in, as the kid won't know exactly that they're having fun while they're learning.
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
Just in format for middle school. So all middle school students have an advisory class, and that class is set up with the purpose of developing a relationship with their teacher. So on the Monday where we've cut down the synchronous time, they do meet in their advisory, and that is part of building a relationship, getting organized, getting questions answered for the students. So in the middle school, that advisory class, along with the different programs that social workers may do, community liaisons may do, it is around building better relationships with the teacher.
I was just going to share earlier this evening, I was talking about a long meeting, held maybe 4-hour meeting yesterday with principals, where we're talking about some of the practices that have been developed. And one of the things that principals all agreed was very beneficial this year was to have onboarding at the beginning of the year. And part of that is I think a great opportunity for students to get oriented to the school or their classroom before school starts, for parents to possibly meet their teacher or teachers, to see the campus. And it's a practice that I would love to see. It does cost money to have people on campus and pay them. But of course, there is potential there for us to use some of the federal funding that we will receive to add some additional time for that orientation. And Mr. Gamboa's question or comment was very important, because we do have a lot of students who have not been on campus yet, and they need to be onboarded or oriented.
That's a great point. And just to reemphasize, we also realize that our students are, and even our adults, even you in the audience right now, even us as adults here right now with you, we're all struggling. And so we cannot emphasize enough the social emotional learning, the social emotional tools that we need, the meditation, the stopping to breathe. I know some of us have Apple Watches, it tells you to breathe. But you know, sometimes just looking up at a tree, something greater than yourself, can get that heart rate down. I can't emphasize Lawndale's push for equity and our reinforcement of that by really providing for each of our schools, our social workers, our social worker interns. They're there for you. There's not a waiting line for you to get support or even support for yourself. Please contact the community liaisons. They can connect you to resources for your own self so that you don't have to go through this alone. Trust me, we're all going through it. Thank you, Mrs. Cruz. She mentioned in here, she wanted to commend our teachers that are out there with us. Hopefully you can hear this because you're not always going to hear the positive. That's the reality of our job. But she says, I want to commend our teachers for continuously supporting our students. My 6th grader had a smooth transition, and it was because of the support of the teachers. I want to thank you all for doing what is best for our students and keeping everyone safe. Thank you so much. A question came in regarding the curriculum goals for the 2021-2022 school year, or even this summer. Given that students receive less in-person instruction time this year, tell me where we're going with this.
You know, I wouldn't say curriculum goals change. One of the things when we look at the school year and less instructional time, we just really hone in on the Common Core standards, state standards that they are supposed to learn. And so we zero in on those Common Core standards and knowledge and skills, and to focus on those things. And one of the major focus for us is for students to have critical thinking skills and academic discussion. To be able to share their thinking will enhance their learning. Learning is social. Learning needs to have communication, and kids need to critically think through the content. So our curriculum has been the same. I know some districts, they partnered with maybe Arizona State University or different programs like Edgenuity to be their curriculum, but we wanted to maintain our same curriculum that we use in a brick and mortar, and we wanted to adjust our instruction to make sure we do the essential standards that students need so they would not have loss in learning. In our initial assessments that we've done, we do not have a large loss in learning. And so we're confident that we'll continue to focus in on those essential standards and do everything we can to ensure the students are not missing out, but that we're focusing on the essential things that they need.
May I address, Mr. Pena had made a suggestion to principal at Adams Middle School. That's something we can look at, the generating emails that are automatic to let parents know if they've completed assignments. We always have to balance the needs of many people. Some people want lots of communication from the school, and some people want less communication. So that's something we can take a look at, though, so that parents have another way of knowing whether their students are completing their assignments.
You know, I'm going to throw out a shameless plug for all those out there that are interested in really being a part of what Dr. Janssen would describe an opportunity for us to change education. She's mentioned that multiple times. And I share that by being that, you know, opportunities there are in Lawndale. You know, we have instructional assistants for some of our high needs students. There's job opportunities, and we encourage those of you that want to be a part of something greater for others that, you know, please consider joining Lawndale and considering applying for some of these positions, taking our tests, and hopefully get you aboard. You know, I can guarantee you one thing, it will be the most rewarding thing that you will experience is changing a student's life because of your impact, regardless of what you think your position is. Every employee here is creating the future. Let's see, no other questions at this time. Any last words of wisdom?
I know that Ms. Abbott, who is our 21st Century Learning Coordinator, has put something in the chat that parents can sign up for Guardian emails from Google Classroom. Guardian emails share what missing assignments there are if your student has not completed assignments. And she will follow up with the middle school staff about that. I think there's one. Oh, okay. So if Ms. Sandoval in my office, my assistant, is putting in the chat information about connecting with your community liaison. You can also connect with your classroom teacher, and you can also connect with social workers. So if you need help with the academics of your students, what they're learning, their curriculum, their materials, or technology, or if you need emotional support, there are those supports for you, and we encourage you to take advantage of them. And we'll continue updating you on the Monday emails that I send out, and then when it seems like it's a good time to have another town hall, we'll plan for that. But we thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.